Your support, finding honest Native-centered news is not easy. But with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Pinigigi, and thank you for your support.
Fair fun starts on Metro Transit. Instead of driving, park your car for free and take a stress-free, non-stop, air-conditioned ride straight to the Minnesota State Fair. You'll not only save on gas and parking costs by taking a State Fair Express bus, we'll drop you off and pick you up right outside the gates. Learn more at metrotransit.org/State Fair. That's metrotransit.org/State Fair.
Hey, it's Robert Pilot from Native Roots Radio. Native culture is alive and thriving at the Minnesota State Fair. The Native Roots Trading Post is back at the West End Market where you can support Indigenous artists and makers. And don't miss the Native Pride dancers performing on the Summit stage at the Bazaar August 31st and September 1st. From music and art to food and storytelling, Native culture is everywhere at the State Fair. Tickets are just $17 through August 20th at mnstatefair.org.
The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis AIR dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis AIR on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
Minnesotans age 65 plus might qualify for Health Partners Minnesota Senior Health Options. The easy all-in-one plan includes personal support, coverage for medical, prescription drugs, and dental, plus many extra benefits. Eligibility information is available at healthpartners.com/oneplan. Health Partners is a health plan that contracts with both Medicare and the Minnesota Medical Assistance Medicaid program to provide benefits of both programs to enrollees. Enrollment in Health Partners depends on contract renewal.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Tonight, clear with some patchy fog and a low of 68. Then Wednesday, sunshine with a high of 82. Spend your summer with some of the hottest musical acts around at Crooner's Supper Club in Fridley. Crooner's is located just north of I-694 off Highway 65 and Moore Lake Drive. Visit croonersmn.com to view their schedules and food menus.
Portions of Native Roots Radio may be pre-recorded.
It's a good day to be Indigenous.
Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Couldn't cut, hit me cut again.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake.
Welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade. Hey, Kadagi to all my friends and relatives in four directions. You are listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot. Hey, we discuss local, national, Native news and events, and as you know, Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues. Hey, on today's show, we got State Representative Heather Keeler, our friend and just great guest. And then we have later on Arvina Martin, who's a CEO of Emerge Wisconsin. And we all know she's the first Native American city council member in the city of Madison, Wisconsin. And we always love to catch up with her organization and also what's happening in Wisconsin. And it's just a big shout out to Civic Media, which we're on, all in Wisconsin, and of course the mothership here, AM 950, and all the other affiliates. Want to just say a big ahoo, thank you so much. Hey, before we get going here, I just want to mention one thing before we get going with State Representative Heather Keeler. I wanted to just remind everyone we're going to be live at the fair Thursday. Come down to the West End booth and come see us. And then earlier on, the Gailey show is going to be on at 2:00 right next to our booth too. So come on down, buy some swag, buy some Native American art, t-shirts, wild rice. We got a lot of stuff going on. And if you've been down there, come on down and say hi to me. We'll be broadcasting Thursday and Friday. And so why don't we get with our friend, State Representative Heather Keeler. It was always great to see you, and thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks. I love Native supporting Natives. Like I just want to reiterate, like coming out to see you at the fair is more than just like stopping out and seeing you. I think it's really important as Natives when we talk about how we economically support ourselves. It's opportunities like this, like go out and get your shopping done, find gifts for other people, be really intentional. And so I hope you have a good turnout. How many years has this been, Robert, that you guys have been set up at the fair?
Geez, this is the fifth year. The fifth year,
Yeah, wow.
and yeah, we always wanted to move, Heather. And if you remember, who's next to us, it was like, and I think this was intentional by the fair, is that they had a taxidermist next to us. If you remember that, and it's almost like cowboys and Indians. It's like our relatives
Yes.
are over there, and I think they put us in as a buffer for protests. Really.
Yeah. It also like the lack of understanding sometimes in organizational structures. Like, on my two feather side, I feel like the education I do for organizers and event planners is just so critical around like basic indigenous knowledge and setup, in these spaces. We can laugh about it, because I feel like Native sometimes we can do that, but the reality is like that just kind of seems like poor planning a little bit if I had to be honest.
Yeah, and I always like too, we don't see it as much, but when we first got there was a lot of native inspired art, and that just to me means native stolen art.
Yeah, I agree. I've been a committee volunteer for powwows for, geez, like going on almost 15, 18 years maybe. And so, on the vendor side of that, it's been really important for the committees that I've been on to really have like natives, like
Mhm.
enrolled members of federally recognized tribes out here selling, their artwork because it's more than just like a piece of art. It's our time. It's, our resiliency in action. And so I'm with you. I think the native inspired is just kind of a cop out for like stealing our stuff and not, we have enough vendors and we have enough natives that are doing the work that we can all support in the right way.
Yeah, what's interesting too is I've always talked about, especially when it comes to powwow season, is come on down there. Our white allies, come on down. But if you ever get in a situation, ask who made this, and if they
Mhm.
can't tell you, I would not buy it.
Yeah, ask who made it, ask where they're from, ask what the story is. Like, it's always interesting to me, those vendors that have a collection of artists' work and they don't give credit to the artists. There's even some stores around town that I sort of get a little bit frustrated, because we want to go and we want to buy, but we also want to know the story of like who put their time and energy into that, where are they from, who are their family, like it's I do think that we could get a little bit better at giving credit where credit is due within our own communities a little bit. That's for sure.
Mhm. Yeah, I remember you turned me on to Bill Breen,
Yeah.
when we were doing Dayton's, and, I see him everywhere, and he's doing great, and his art is just, blowing up, but, that was like 5 years ago too, Heather.
Yeah. One thing that I have always done is I've just always believed in building bridges versus burning bridges. And I think especially as Native people, like we're all in spaces that others aren't. And it's good for us to give each other shout outs, give each other the flowers that we deserve, in spaces. And so it's kind of cool because Bill's story is really wonderful. I had a couple
Mhm.
pieces of artwork from him and his story with his connection to his wife and just why he got into this is just such a beautiful story. And to see him around now, and he's got skirts and he's got dresses and he's like um, just really doing some really wonderful things in memory of his wife. And so I think, again,
Mhm.
when you know the artist and you know the story behind them, it's just so much easier to support. So I love that. His artwork is really cool too.
It is, and I thank you very much for turning us on to that for the first couple of years down at Dayton's. I think one of the if I remember right, didn't you kind of promote him as also somebody that drew with his, finger on, didn't he draw a lot of his stuff, on an iPad with his finger?
Yep. So it's all digital, which is kind of cool because he got into it as something to do um, while his wife was sick. And if you go onto his social
Mm,
media, he talks pretty openly about his story. And so, yeah, just taking like new age creativity, the digital age, and kind of leaning into what that can create was always just an interesting story for me. And
Right.
also how you can, I really believe in this idea that we turn our pain into purpose. And that's just one of the artist's stories that's really been able, I think, to do that and share that story out.
Well, truth be told, especially with Bill and you presenting his art to us, you dropped it off at our house. I mean, that's how
Mhm.
important it was for you to promote him, and look at him now.
Yeah, that was crazy. That was crazy because he was going somewhere else. So we stopped here in Moorhead with this trailer, and I think I pretty much loaded up my car as full as I could to bring this stuff down to you because, again, natives supporting natives is just so much more than like stopping by a booth and like buying a pair of earrings. Though, like, I love buying earrings. I'm like a huge supporter, but I think it's really going those extra, extra steps and going the extra mile to make sure that more people can see our artwork in different places and, connecting with people like you who help put them on the map that feeds the families that we all, are fighting for.
And what's great now too is my Weeha and Hinu, my daughters are doing all this now, and Wendy and I are really pulling back, and it's good to see because we've always done this for some generational wealth for our kids and now our grandkids.
Yeah, that's crazy. I still can't believe your grandbabies are like one, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and Jelaine couldn't work last fair because she had them, but she brought them down when they were teeny, and
Mhm.
it's just like, for me, I'm afraid to hold the very little ones. But now that they're big, I just whip them around, and they're
Yeah,
one of them's 25 pounds, and he's uh, he's only a year old, and he's bigger than some 2-year olds, and it's amazing.
that's healthy. You like healthy babies, I mean, like, it's a time of their life when size is just so good, like to have those good chuppa babies is so cute and so healthy.
Well, hey, let's get a preview because that kind of a good segue to next segment. We're going to take a break here in about 30 seconds, but there's a couple things I know you wanted to talk about, and that kind of segues good into that.
Yeah, I think we'll come back and chat about August being Breastfeeding Awareness Month. No, that's something maybe we don't talk a lot about here, but birth justice, I do a lot of work in food insecurities, and breastfeeding and nursing lines right up with that. So let's chat about that when we come back for sure.
Right on, and what a pro you are. You just got us out of what we're listening to Native Roots Radio, and we're here with State Representative Heather Keeler, and we'll be right back.
The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis AIR dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis AIR on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
Four Sisters Farmers Market is more than a place to shop for delicious organic food. It's a celebration of Indigenous culture, food sovereignty, and community. Now in its 11th season, the market offers healthy, affordable, culturally appropriate local foods every Thursday from 11 to 3. Located on the American Indian Cultural Corridor off Franklin Avenue, Four Sisters Farmers Market is a project of NACD. Every Thursday now through October, discover more about Four Sisters Farmers Market by visiting nacd.org.
Fair fun starts on Metro Transit. Instead of driving, park your car for free and take a stress-free, non-stop, air-conditioned ride straight to the Minnesota State Fair. You'll not only save on gas and parking costs by taking a State Fair Express bus, we'll drop you off and pick you up right outside the gates. Learn more at metrotransit.org/statefair. That's metrotransit.org/statefair.
Hey, this is Robert Pilot. The Minnesota State Fair is more than food on a stick. It's a chance to celebrate Native culture and voices. On August 25th, hear the Red Lake Singers and Emizaska Drum Group during Mental Health Awareness at Dan Patch Park. On August 27th, meet Native authors like Roxanne B2B Nokwe Gold and Stacy Lola Druyard, and visit the Common Table and learn how Indigenous foodways are shaping Minnesota's future. Get your State Fair tickets now at mnstatefair.org.
Hi, I'm Jane Fonda, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot. Hey, this portion is supported by the Native American Community Clinic on Franklin Avenue, Minneapolis, honoring health and tradition. And it's just a great organization, and they're expanding. Their clinic is getting to be very big. It's going to be very huge, and they're always helping the community, and that's just a beautiful thing. So I just want to give them a quick shout out too. Hey, we're here with State Representative Heather Keeler. And Heather, I'm really getting a lot better about introducing you over the years. Now that you're on every 2 weeks again, I'm in the groove here, and I even called you, you know what? Oh, wow.
I was actually going to mention it, but I also don't want to jinx us, but it feels like you're getting it a little bit better under control,
Yeah.
We'll never carry that other weird title you try to give me.
Right. And not only that, it's like my 9th year. So I'm getting this down here, I think, pretty soon, pretty quick here.
Yeah, and I've been doing this with you for 5 years, so it's not taking you too long. You're doing a really great job, Robert.
Oh, and I always appreciate when you have the capacity to co-host or guest host, and that's funny too, because today we're going to have Arvina Martin, who's also guest host too.
Which I busted you. I don't know if the people know the story, right? Like,
Oh.
Robert, you assume that I am not a fan of this show. I think you assume I only listen when I'm on, but the truth be told, I actually really enjoy listening to this show. And I busted you telling somebody else that they're the best guest host when I feel like you've given me that title a couple times. So I guess we're just going to have to let the people decide.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe we can have a vote, but you are awesome, and I don't know if you saw. I texted you during the break and just saying that you are so good on the air. I wish I could get you on once a month with your own show, and I'm kind of lining people up to do that. So maybe we can talk about Two Feathers and doing something after Native Roots Radio. So stay tuned to that. But hey, again, let's talk about again. Got to honor Wendy because she always says, let Heather talk about what she wants to talk about. And so I want to,
Yeah, listen to Wendy. Listen to what Wendy says, right?
Exactly. So here we are. She's coming back from New York tonight. I'll be picking her up just in time for the fair and watching the little babies. But yeah, we wanted to talk a little about what's happening this month.
Yeah. So a couple things. I feel like, I don't ever want to misrepresent the fact that I live out here in Moorhead. And so we have our own community and our own community things going on. And so want to give a quick shout out to this last weekend. Rain came, it was so cold, but our Indigenous Association, which is an organization here that's housed in Fargo, but really serves the Fargo Moorhead area, they had their annual picnic. And for the urban Indian community, those things are just so important. I know in Minneapolis, St. Paul, there's a lot of things going on, but really want to give intentional credit to what we have going on out here. And I know we have listeners. A couple people there said they hear me on the show. And so want to make sure that maybe that's my reminder to be more intentional about talking about the things happening over in my side of the state too. So there was that. Shout out to them bringing people together. I gave away all my cash to all the vendors and supported my earring habit for sure. But also 2 weekends ago, then, Fargo Moorhead, we always have our Pride celebration a little bit later in the summer. And so we come together as a joint community, which is always interesting. Fargo sits in North Dakota, which is politically a different state. I think Ruth has talked about that in a lot of ways. And then, Moorhead is on the Minnesota side. And so helped with the 5K, did things with the parade, able to get out in community, and it's just always full of love. So those two things happened in my community. It was fun to get out. But a lot of the work that I've been working on recently, I think the last couple of years politically, the conversation has been around protecting the right to abortion, which I think is critical. And we've done some really great work around that in the state of Minnesota. I think there's a flip side of this conversation, which is around birth justice and making sure that we have birthing centers that are safe, that are traditional focus, that we have midwives and nurses and individuals around our next generation coming into this journey in a good way. And so it's been really interesting to lean in. And with that, then I have really been big into understanding that August is Breastfeeding Awareness Month. We know that there's a lot of things and benefits that come with this. I think the biggest thing is one, the benefit to the baby. It reduces SIDS, it reduces infections and different diseases, and that's just healthier for your baby overall. We know that if you can nurse for at least 6 months, it reduces the likelihood of obesity down the road. But also there's a lot of good benefits for the mom. As we know, or the nursing parent, that's really good to reduce, risks of ovarian and cervical cancer, breast cancer. Anything that we can do to help ourselves and help our babies is so good. In a world like this is kind of the interesting part about it. In a world that we're talking about, increased in costs at the stores, formula is just crazy expensive right now. And if your kids are sick, any medical care can be really expensive. So more than just like the food insecurity part of breastfeeding, there's just all these other benefits. And I just want to remind people, not necessarily you as the individual who's maybe about to have a baby or be a part of a family having a baby, but you, the organizer, you, the business owner, you, the committee chair that's putting on a powwow, like, do you have spaces for your nursing parents to go and nurse in private, have some fans. I've seen a couple powwows put up really cool teepees that nursing parents can go into, making sure that you give your staff healthy breaks, to go and do this, that this is really like beneficial for our next generation. So wanted to take the time to just rattle some of that off for our listeners, and to really like know that encouraging the people around you to do this is really important. Give them water, hydration, all the things. So going into the fair, I don't know, Robert, like, does the state fair have nursing stations very well? Do you know?
I don't know, but that's a really good question. They definitely should, but they also definitely should lower the amount of money I have to pay to be there. Oh, hey, Heather, Heather, before we have our friend Arvina in the bullpen here, I'm going to have her come on. But before we do that, I want you to give a shout out to Two Feathers and how people can contact you, and a little bit of what you can do for people out there. And we talked a little bit about that before the show.
Yeah, so Two Feathers Consulting, or Two Feathers LLC, is who I am in the world outside of being an elected official. I think people forget that being an elected official is a part-time gig. And so have this whole other role. I do Indigenous focused keynote speaking, motivational speaking, and consulting for higher education, healthcare, and community organizations. My biggest thing is Indigenous 101. So right now I'm booking a lot of things for October around Indigenous Peoples Day and filling up my calendar for keynote motivational speaking for November, because November is Native American Heritage Month, and it feels like a lot of organizations really want that token Native conversation in that month. And so I'm here for it. I'm ready to be booked. You can head to my website, and there's some information on how you can get a hold of me there.
And the website again?
twofeathersllc.com. Two is spelled out.
Cool. Hey, I'm going to grab Arvina and see if she's available to jump in, but it'll be fun because I don't know if Arvina knows the story, State Representative Heather, but Heather Keeler, I don't know if you want to tell Arvina real quick what we were talking about earlier when you were listening to the show and Arvina was a guest host, or was the guest host.
Yeah, and I busted you. I was just saying, I listened to one of the shows that you were guest hosting, and he mentioned that you're his favorite guest host and the best. And I was like, I felt some sort of way about it because Robert said the same thing to me. So I said, I feel like, we're two powerful women and we need to show up in a good way. But it's kind of funny how he was like using the compliments he gives me to give to you too.
That's awesome. You both are great, and I know I listen to to when you're on in the show, and I'm just going, I got to be careful because both these ladies could definitely do a better job than me. So, Arvina, have you ever met State Representative Heather Keeler?
I've not, but I have followed your work in the legislature, et cetera. And I love that you were just talking about nursing, particularly at powwows. I know sometimes there have been times, I didn't make it this year, but the Stockbridge Muncie powwow, which just happened not last weekend, but the weekend before, they've had tents. And that's the only powwow I've ever seen that has tents for nursing parents.
That's amazing.
makes you wonder if it's not something we should provide, like as vendors when we go to places, like if the location that isn't gonna, if the location that's doing the event isn't gonna have a space for nursing parents, like Robert, when you have your booth at the fair, like when we do our, I feel like we always have booths, doing register to vote type things, but kind of taking it upon ourselves to provide some of those spaces too, until it becomes a norm in these spaces.
I mean, it's a good idea. And I feel like the powwow committee should then give you your booth for free because you're offering a service.
That's right. See, partnership in the best way.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, heck, I just want to say, State Representative Heather Keeler, I've made it through 2 segments without calling you State Senator Heather Keeler, but I've done it so well. But I really appreciate coming on, and we're going to have Arvina and I are going to be talking political stuff, and I really appreciate you coming on, as always.
Thanks. I'll say one thing to everybody listening. You have to find the courage to step up and do something. Everybody's mad about something. Everybody's going to feel an impact on something. The reality is, like, I was just the mom who accidentally got into this because I wanted my community to be safe and I wanted my kids to know I was going in and doing something about it. And so as you continue this conversation, I really hope you all who's listening dig in deep to encourage the people around you to run, to do what's right for your community, because if you're not there, somebody else is going to be there, and I guarantee they're not there to support you. So step up, step in, lean in, support, do all the things you need to do. So have a great conversation.
Wow. Thanks, State Representative Heather Keeler, and we'll see you in a couple weeks. This is Native Roots Radio, and we're going to be with Arvina Martin, CEO of Emerge, Wisconsin. This is Native Roots Radio. Hey, it's Robert Pilot from Native Roots Radio. Native culture is alive and thriving at the Minnesota State Fair. The Native Roots Trading Post is back at the West End Market, where you can support Indigenous artists and makers. And don't miss the Native Pride dancers performing on the Summit stage at the Bazaar August 31st and September 1st. From music and art to food and storytelling, Native culture is everywhere at the State Fair. Tickets are just $17 through August 20th at mnstatefair.org.
When was the last time you had your roof inspected for extreme weather and hail damage? This is Chad, owner of AM 950, to talk about the exterior construction company I trust, Snap Construction. If you've noticed new roofing projects in your neighborhood, your home was likely hit by hail last summer and experienced damage. Snap Construction is helping homeowners like you, and they're the roofing specialists I trust. They are the most well-reviewed contractor in the Twin Cities and have a ton of positive customer reviews from homeowners just like you. Even better, Snap Construction's installations are backed by a lifetime warranty, so you know you're dealing with a qualified roofing expert. You want to work with a company that will be here for a long time after the work is done. Snap Construction has handled thousands of claims and will help you through the process. Do yourself a favor and get a free roofing inspection so you have the facts and peace of mind you deserve. Call Snap Construction today at 612-333-SNAP. That's 612-333-SNAP. Or visit snapconstruction.com.
Hi, this is Laura with Food Freedom Radio, and I invite you to discover 2 local grocery stores with a global fare. Market Fresh, south of Rosedale, carries fresh vegetables, quality meats, seafood, and a wide variety of grocery staples, all in a welcoming store. Shanghai Wholesale Market is in the St. Paul Midway area, and it's a food warehouse open to the public. Shanghai Wholesale carries more than 500 types of noodles. And frankly, it's time for Minnesotans to learn that pasta is a little bit more than spaghetti noodles and tuna casserole. There's sweet potato, bean, rice, fresh, frozen, dry. It's a paradise for those seeking gluten-free pasta. Also, both Market Fresh and Shanghai Wholesale Market seek to buy local, so you can look for local quail eggs, unique cheeses, and Minnesota-made tofu. Open the door to food abundance. Discover Market Fresh, your local Asian food store just south of Rosedale, and Shanghai Wholesale Market, your local international food warehouse north of Menards in the St. Paul Midway area.
Hey, it's Tom. There's a war being waged on clean energy. A bill in Congress could eliminate the 30% federal tax credit for solar by the end of 2025. And once it's gone, it may never come back. Fossil fuel giants and their MAGA friends in Washington want to kill green energy. But you can fight back. Going solar with all energy solar isn't just smart, it's a form of resistance. You choose where your money goes, not to utility companies, not to fossil fuel billionaires, but toward clean, renewable power for your home. A system from All Energy Solar works in Minnesota year-round because it runs on sunlight, not heat. So even in the dead of winter, you're generating electricity. And All Energy Solar helps you save with every rebate and incentive available. This is the moment to act. Waiting means risking with this tax credit and giving the upper hand to MAGA Republicans. So get your free consultation today at allenergysolar.com and take back your power.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Tonight, clear with some patchy fog and a low of 68. Then Wednesday, sunshine with a high of 82. Spend your summer with some of the hottest musical acts around at Crooner Supper Club in Fridley. Crooners is located just north of I-694 off Highway 65 and Moore Lake Drive. Visit croonersmn.com to view their schedules and food menus.
Hi, this is Governor Walz. Thank you for listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot. Hey, this portion of the show is supported by Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition, and we're going to have the new head of Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition, or I should say the Minnesota office of MMIW. She used to work for the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition. We're going to have Guadalupe Lopez on at the day of the fair when we're on the fair. So pretty exciting. Hey, we are here with our friend Arvina Martin, Ho-Chunk, and also our friend from Wisconsin. And we love to talk to you once a week and talk about what's going on. And I just have to say this, you sent me a text earlier today, and I read a very disturbing mail to from I guess a congressperson.
Yep. Congressman Tom Tiffany wrote a letter talking about the situation with Lac du Flambeau. And for those of you who didn't know, Lac du Flambeau, the tribe, has been in a fight with the town of Lac du Flambeau over the use of their roads, the tribal roads and the easements. There had been no payments towards use and maintenance of those roads for a very, very, very long time. The tribe was negotiating with both non-tribal land owners that own homes on the reservation, as well as the town of Lac du Flambeau. They'd been in negotiations for at least a decade over this, and it's a pretty sticky situation. The state assembly representatives have tried to get involved, which has led to one of them being banned from the Lac du Flambeau reservation because she was talking very disgustingly about the tribe and ignoring things like tribal sovereignty that Lac du Flambeau has been trying to protect. And last week, a judge, a federal judge, ruled against the tribe and said that the easements were implied and that they had to provide access to those roads. And a beginning of a chipping away of tribal sovereignty. And today, when I looked at, news of the day, as well as, political news, things happening in Wisconsin, and I saw a letter posted that Congressman Tom Tiffany, who represents a large portion of northern Wisconsin, east to west, a letter to Attorney General Pam Bondi, and he wants the Department of Justice to make sure that Lac du Flambeau, the tribe, reimburses the town of Lac du Flambeau for the fees that they have paid in order to and for access. And he's gone as far as calling this situation an illegal shakedown. He's called it extortion, and it's really disgusting the way he's talking about tribal governments. He's clearly not or he's clearly showing a very big lack of understanding as to tribal sovereignty and what it entails and what it means. And I had to text it to you right away because I was pretty disgusted.
Yeah, well, he needs to ask Kristi Noem about that because, as we remember, when she was governor, the tribes did not let her on and legally had the right not to let her on because of her racism.
Oh yeah, and I believe before she left office, before she went to Homeland Security, she was ultimately banned from all reservations in the state. So, we've got a little ways to go with that, but there was one state representative, I believe, who was on she's a chair. I'm blanking on her name, but she is one of the chairs of the State Tribal Relations Committee. That is kind of like a study group or a group that brings up issues that are pertinent to Indian country within the state of Wisconsin. They have legislative members, they have representatives from the governor, as well as from the tribes. And it's a messy situation. I'm trying to find a quote that from the chair of the Lac du Flambeau tribe that was really, really appropriate. But I have yet to find it. So I'm still looking for it while we're talking right now.
Oh, hey, well, why don't I mention something while you're doing that? State Representative Heather Keeler and I believe before the show, I'm starting to lose my mind a little bit here. It might have been during the show, but we were talking about, have you ever been to Gatherings of Nations?
I have not.
Well, this is their last year. He's finally given it up, and there's a couple amazing kind of things to talk about. Is that there was so many I've never seen. I went once and I broadcast live from there. I did a symposium from there about 3-4 years ago without really knowing the whole backstory behind that. And it was very interesting that this person's daughter was not able to dance in a powwow, and so he's, as a non-native, started this powwow. And so for years and years there's been pushback because this person's not Native American and makes tons and tons and tons of money from this powwow every year. And so the pushback's been real, and now maybe some Native organization can take over the Gatherings of Nations and really do it in a good way. But very interesting because I Google the news, what's going on, and that's come up the last couple days as big news. And it's real interesting. I know a couple of my guests this week have been to Gathering of Nations too. And so, very interesting. And I think he's doing the right thing by ending it. It's been going on for many, many, many years.
Oh yeah, I've never been. I'd always wanted to go, but I didn't know until maybe within the last 7 years that it was run by non-natives, and that was really disappointing for me to see, because everybody talks about being in. I think it's called the Pit. Is that right? Yeah, being in the Pit and just having an arena full of dancers from all over the country representing different nations and dancing different styles, and it being just such a beautiful, it providing this really beautiful feeling, and it's disappointing that it has been done, to profit off of Native people, rather than uplift. And you know, I when I found that out, I was like, oh, maybe I'll try to go to Denver March instead.
Yeah, definitely. And it isn't, and you want to be respectful, but it's really come out big time the last few years. And I had a chance to meet him and the person that ran it, and just in passing, and yeah. So these things happen, and it's funny. We talk about musicians, we talk about professors that maybe are pretending to be Native American, and that they're getting outed, and that's good. And we're, from your previous story, we are really working on our sovereignty by speaking up.
And I'm having a hard time finding the quote, but that was something that Elected Flambeau Chair John Johnson had said that really stuck with me. And even though I can't remember the exact words, but it was something to the effect of, we have to protect our sovereignty, and if I give up here, I'm giving up so much more than just access to these roads. This is all about protecting our sovereignty and our ability to govern as we see fit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what you were saying,
keep going.
earlier too, sorry, what you're saying too is that, trying to chip away at our sovereignty by doing things like this. I'm glad people are talking about it, and I'm glad we're talking about it.
Yeah, and while looking, I did find that it was actually a state senator, Mary Felkowski, who was banished because she compared the tribe to the Taliban and called the tribe terrorists,
Yep.
which is absolutely astounding and very, beyond insulting. And then had the nerve to be offended when they took action and made it so she couldn't go to the reservation. She couldn't go on those lands, and she sounded real butthurt about it, and was saying that it was all for show, when this was a principled stand that was there to protect more than just roads.
Absolutely. I just want to say this too before we go to break. Dennis, our friend with Native Blend, he said he had attended the powwow we were speaking of, and he said they enjoyed themselves, but the natives felt they were kind of put on display there. So that's really interesting perspective of that. The gathering of the nations is what we were talking about. But yeah, something else will come in its place, and again, we have to speak up and be proactive and things like that. So we got another segment here, and we're with our friend, Executive Director from Emerge Wisconsin, and maybe we can talk a little bit about Emerge Wisconsin next segment. And this is Native Roots Radio. We'll be right back after this short break. Please stay with us. This is Robert Pilot, host of Native Roots Radio. At the Great Minnesota Get-Together, Native Voices take center stage. Experience powerful drum performances, meet Native authors, and explore Indigenous food traditions at the Common Table in the Agriculture Horticulture Building. It's all part of the 12 days of family fun with thousands of food, shows, exhibits, and more. Plan ahead and save. Tickets are just $17 through August 20th at mnstatefair.org. That's the Minnesota State Fair, August 21st through September 1st. See you there. Four Sisters Farmers Market is more than a place to shop for delicious organic food. It's a celebration of Indigenous culture, food sovereignty, and community. Now in its 11th season, the market offers healthy, affordable, culturally appropriate local foods every Thursday from 11 to 3. Located on the American Indian Cultural Corridor off Franklin Avenue, Four Sisters Farmers Market is a project of NAGD. Every Thursday now through October, discover more about Four Sisters Farmers Market by visiting NAGD.org.
The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis Air dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis Air on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
Hey, it's Robert Pilot from Native Roots Radio. The Minnesota State Fair is packed with 12 days of fun with food, rides, animal shows, and much, much more. And right in the middle of it all, you'll find Indigenous voices making an impact. Seat the common table for lessons in Indigenous food justice. Visit with Native authors and watch drum groups. Plus, stop by the Native Roots Trading Post back at the West End Market. Tickets are just $17 through August 20th at mnstatefair.org.
Hi, this is Representative Sharice Davids from Kansas. I'm Ho Chunk, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot. Hey, in this portion of the show, we'd like to bring awareness to our Minnesota and Wisconsin wolf population by saying no to the hunts. Oh, right on. Hey, we're with our friend, executive director of Emerge Wisconsin, Arvina Martin, and we were just talking about some things happening kind of nationally, but locally, because we didn't have borders as Native Americans, but we did have places to be. Hey, I just have to tell you this before we talk a little bit about Emerge. I'm part of a committee that Met Council committee here in Minnesota, which is a very powerful committee. Non-elected committee that does a lot of things, and I'm on the Native American Advisory Board. And we went down to Prairie Island, and they had bought some land about 13 minutes away from their office that was their land way back when. And they have over 90 mounds, burial mounds down there, and it just blew my mind. And some of them were dug up, but not very many. And it was just an amazing experience. And it was very interesting because you could feel things. Have you ever run into a situation like that? Because I know in Wisconsin, there's a lot of burial mounds, and heck, the capitals, and the university are all kind of connected to that way.
Yeah, no, so I think the most, I would say the most powerful experience I had was when the Ho-Chunk youth were paddling in the dugout canoe created from a tree donated by Dane County. It was made by Native youth with the help of our tribal preservation officer, Bill Quackenbush. And then Ho-Chunk youth then paddled from the top or the northernmost part of Lake Mendota all the way through our Four Lakes chain down to South Beloit. And I got to participate, and I got to paddle on the first day. And the first day we stopped at the site in the water where they discovered those dugout canoes. And so we were floating above that spot. And that was like, I was very overwhelmed with emotion at that point, because, I live not too far from there. So, it was almost, be a little bit of a walk, but I could walk there from my house to the shore, and here it was, and here was more evidence and of our ancestors being right there. And thousands of years later, here we were right above that spot where our ancestors had left their canoes. And candidates, I know they do this in Minnesota too, will be proud. I'm a fifth generation Wisconsinite. And, I did the math, like how long is a generation, and made it so I could, then say I'm a 200 generation Wisconsinite at least. So, it was really powerful. I started crying because it was just it was really incredible. And being in that kind of presence, just it really did something to me. I have a hard time describing what that feeling was like other than overwhelming. I mean, in a good way, of course.
Yeah, it was I've never seen or felt anything like that in my whole life, and I was grateful to be there, but also, the ancestors have been there for those mounds were 1,000 years old, they were saying. There's a big community that they're figuring out down there, and that's what I like to say is we've been here 10,000 years, and Ho Chunk in Minnesota, there was no borders, and of course Wisconsin and so, when we talk about these politicians, I had a friend reach out to me that I went to high school with, and she was saying, "Oh my gosh," and I don't know if you know anything about this, but Red Lake kind of got ripped off on the tip of they did that on purpose where the top of the lake was not part of the treaty. So they didn't get the whole lake, and they want it, and people are upset that they're going to have to tear down their mansions and all these things. And literally, I got some messages from people going, "Oh, please tell them not to do that. We've been up there for generations, 2 generations." And I'm just going, "Oh my God, they just don't get it." I just wanted to respond. They've been there 10,000 years.
The audacity to say something like that is unbelievable to me. It makes my jaw drop. And it, seeing those and going to those sites, and that feeling that you get it really emphasizes our responsibility to take care of those sites and that they've lasted so long. And I encourage non-natives to feel that same way over our sites in the sense that it's part of Wisconsin's culture. Mounds are part of Wisconsin's culture. And as a Wisconsinite, you should be proud of that. It's the same way. I'm not German, but I know how to polka, it's part of the Wisconsin heritage. You just hear that stuff. And I remember a friend from college who was from Miami. I believe his parents were from Haiti. And he came up to visit before we went back to school, and he heard the polkas. I took him to a Badger game, and these polka songs started playing, and he was like, how do you know the words to all of these songs? And I was like, I don't know, they've just always been there. So I feel like if I can embrace that as part of a Wisconsinite, that other non-native Wisconsinites should feel protective in the same way, that it is part of their heritage as Wisconsinites. It might not be their, biological DNA lineage, but at the same time, it's a part of our state's history. It's a part of Minnesota's history as well, and Iowa. And I don't know that people from outside or from our areas necessarily realize that these are the only places these kinds of mounds. This is the only place in the world where they happen.
Yeah.
And as far as I'm concerned, they all deserve UNESCO World Heritage Site protections, and everything, beyond the protections that a lot of them already have. I think it's a part of our human legacy, our human heritage as well, and need to be preserved.
Yeah, and we need to preserve them. And they're going to be putting some bodies back into these mounds that were stolen and that are in museums. So they're doing the right thing. Before we only got a couple minutes left, but I just wanted to mention this, that they stayed over, and one of my friends that is one of the people that help with that, and they stayed overnight, and he said that they could hear the children playing, and they could hear them, and that I believe them, and that really really hit me.
I believe them 100% as well. And hopefully that experience inspires something, a protective sense over those sites for those people, because they're priceless, they're meaningful, and you don't need to be native to see it.
Well, Prairie Island's doing the right thing. They're down there doing the right thing, and it's really hard to find unless you're looking for it. So that's really good. Hey, I got a minute left. Let's get a shout out to Emerge and how people can find out and whatever you want to say in the next minute.
Yes, go to our Instagram. Instagram account is Emerge WIS. We are hosting and we'll be hosting a series of 1-hour trainings for people that are interested in potentially running for office. If you're early on, if you're trying to decide whether this is something that you want to do, you should absolutely come to our Step Forward trainings. They're 1 hour, they're free, they're on Zoom, open to anybody. And really think about it. I mean, we have a congressman that is saying that a tribe, while defending its own sovereignty, is extorting this poor little town. And you know, we need more of us in office. Like Representative Keeler said, you know, our issues are not going to be handled unless we're up the table.
Thank you so much, Arvina Martin, Executive Director, Emerge Wisconsin. We'll see everybody tomorrow. This has been Native Roots Radio. Ho-wah.
The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host